I've shown you the tools that I use for making boxes. There are a couple of things that you need and that you can make yourself that will make your box making safer and more accurate. One of them is this cross-cut sled. The first thing you do is you have to plane your runners so that they're the right thickness this way to fit into the guide slots. Then cut them in thickness to lay flush with the top of the saw. Then the next thing you do is on the top side of your plywood that you're going to use as the base of your sled, you cut a dado cut. And so this is a 3/4 inch dado. And then you plane a piece of stock to serve as your fence to fit exactly within that. Now it's pretty much the same process that you use to make your runners. Then I turned this upside down and position this approximately where I want it to align, and I'll mark where that saw blade goes. It also mark where the guide slot is, so I know where that runner needs to align. So now that I have that marked where the guide slot is in relation to the board, I'm just going to flip it over so it's upside down, and I'm going to take one of my runners and align it like that and hold it in a position with the carpenter square aligned with this edge that we used for cutting the dado. I want to hold that, and I'm going to drill a hole in right there for a screw, but I'm going to countersink it and I screwed it in place with 3 screws. And as I put in each screw, I made absolutely certain that this was still square to the square and square to the front edge. Then I turned the piece over, set it down, put the other runner in place, and then use screws to attach it from above. So my next step is just simply to take this fence that I've fitted here. So now that I have it in place, I'm going to take some screws and just drive them down right in place there and there. Now I have a sled ready for its first cut. And for that first cut, all I have to do is raise the blade. There's nothing quite like a new sled, because one of the things that it does is the cut line that comes in here will be exactly the size of the saw curve. And so it really makes it handy for measuring things, which I'll show you in just a minute. Now, this is my first cut. By clamping a stop block in place, I can cut after cut after cut, all the same length. Now the first thing you do is you always have to square one end, because in planing or jointing or handling of the material, sometimes things get a little out of square. So now you can see how that piece is safely pulled back out of the cut. So now I can pick it up and I can move it very safely. I move it into the stop block, and I can make it through the cut, now safely remove it. Slide it in, make the same cut, and remove it. And then you see that gives me 2 pieces that are exact in length. And the beauty of it is the simplicity of it. It's very easy to make, and it will be useful for many years in your box making. One of the things that I really like about a new sled, now sleds get old and they're not as accurate as they used to be when this cut gets widened. And just the use of it, you know, sometimes the saw blade will flex a little bit in there or something and it'll lose its accuracy. But you can see how, say I want this to be 3.5 inches. Can you see how I can just move that over? And I'm not measuring to the blade, I'm measuring exactly to the saw cut. So you can see that that can give you a great deal of precision.